Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 33rd Semi-Annual Commencement Ceremony for Western Governors University. Graduates, families, and friends, thank you for joining us as we celebrate this special occasion. Our commencement ceremony is being recorded and streamed online. A special welcome to all of our participants joining us online from across the country and around the world. Please silence your phones and stand for the processional and remain standing for the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, and you may please take your seats. We'd like to thank Chandra Hansen from Meridian, Idaho, who is graduating with her master's degree in nursing, leadership and management, for singing our national anthem. Good morning, everyone. It is my honor to convene the 2017 Summer Commencement Ceremony. On behalf of the entire university, we welcome our graduates and congratulate you on completing one of life's great achievements. We also extend our warmest welcome to the many family members and friends who are here to support their graduates. In addition, we want to recognize and welcome the many graduates who, together with their family and friends, are watching this event live via our live webcast. There are many others here to celebrate your success. We'd like to recognize Clayton M. Christensen, the Kim B. Clark Professor of Business Administration at Harvard Business School and founder of the Christensen Institute, who will address us shortly. We'd also like to recognize those on the stage, including our President Emeritus Bob Mendenhall, as well as the Honorable Governor Mike Leavitt, as well as the Honorable Governor Roy Romer and the Honorable Governor Jim Geringer. We'd also like to recognize the university's trustees, including Tammy Johns, Bob Evanson, Terry Crane, David Simmons, and Joe Fuller. Standing here, I see the many family and friends. It is likely that today would not have been possible without their support. In fact, there are over 7,500 guests in attendance, and many more are watching online to celebrate you, our graduates. Would all of you, the friends and family of our graduates, please stand up? Graduates, let's make sure we recognize their support of you. At WGU, we often have family members graduating together. Could we please have these family members stand and be recognized? WGU is also honored to be recognized year after year as a military-friendly university. We would like to recognize our military graduates who are graduating. Would the graduates who are active duty, reservists, and veterans please stand and be recognized? And last but not least, if you, our students and alumni, are the lifeblood of the institution, then the faculty and staff are its heart. With you today are many of our WGU faculty members and employees. Would our faculty members please stand up and be recognized? This year, we are celebrating the 20th anniversary of Western Governors University's founding. 17 years ago, we celebrated our first graduate, and now the university has more than 87,000 graduates, a number that grows every day. Today, we recognize the achievements of 10,488 dedicated students who have graduated since our winter commencement in February. Among these, 6,348 are receiving their bachelor's degrees, and 4,140 have earned their master's degrees. 1,144 of you are attending the ceremony here in person. You represent 47 different states and the District of Columbia. The graduate traveling the greatest distance to participate in commencement today traveled here from Anchorage, Alaska. Thank you for being here, and it is our privilege to be among all of you. You are first to earn a college degree. We extend a special congratulations to you. Your average age is 39, the youngest is 18, and the oldest is 85. "92% of you are over the age of 27. Those receiving a bachelor's degree, on average, you completed your degree in 2 years and 3 months. And among our master's graduates, on average, you finished in 1 year and 8 months. Rituals and ceremonies play an important part in our lives. They separate extraordinary moments from the daily flow. Moments that have special meaning and should always be remembered. It is an inspiring and uplifting moment to look upon you and consider your achievement despite your many priorities and challenges you had to juggle to attain it. You are the reason that we have gathered here, and for me personally, the reason I chose to join WGU. Today's commencement ritual is an emphatic punctuation that you, our graduates, have set and accomplished a significant goal and are moving to a new stage in your life. Since you join only 33% of adults in the U.S. who hold a bachelor's degree and less than 9% who have earned a master's degrees, much will be expected of you as you continue your life's journey, taking leadership roles in your businesses, your communities, and your families. It has been said that the door of history swings on small hinges. You have made the choice and put forth the effort to attain a milestone that will change the course of your personal history. You have set an expectation for yourself, your families, your loved ones. You have lifted your gaze and aspired to greater things. Never forget the privileges or responsibilities of your education. And finally, a sincere thank you for letting us, all of us here at WGU, indeed for letting me be a part of it. Congratulations. At this time, it is my honor to present an honorary doctorate of humane letters to Dr. Robert Mendenhall. Bob served as WGU's president for 17 years, leading the university as it grew and developed from a great idea to one of the largest universities in the country today. He joined WGU in 1999, before we had even enrolled our first student. He previously was a successful entrepreneur with 20 years of experience in technology-enabled learning, and he applied this experience in his leadership of WGU, and it helped ensure the development of our model as well as the university's viability. Over the years, Bob has earned the respect and recognition of higher education leaders as well as policymakers. In 2010, he received the McGraw Prize for Education, one of the most highly regarded awards in education. He has shared the WGU story with presidents, legislators, and administrators, securing both financial and regulatory support for the university. It's impossible to overstate Bob's role in the success of WGU. We are where we are today because of his singular focus on WGU's mission. Anyone who has worked with Bob knows that he has a very personal investment in our students. They are always top of mind for Bob. Today, we want to recognize Bob for his amazing achievement, being part of a revolution in higher education and helping so many individuals change their lives through education. Here's a short video that highlights his impact on WGU, our students, and our employees.
To go from an idea with little capital and a lot of skeptics to 80,000 students in 20 years as one of the more respected institutions of its type in the world is a substantial accomplishment. Bob Mendenhall led the way.
What struck me initially about Bob was how driven he was to create a truly excellent university.
When I first met Bob Mendenhall, and my initial impression was I was expecting the traditional university president, but here shows up Bob in a golf shirt. And I was like, a golf shirt for a university president? But then I started to realize that this was part of the WGU culture, if you will. That we are more technology driven, we're student obsessed, we work urgently, we work collaboratively, and yet we have still a little bit of that technology edge to us that takes away some of the formalities that didn't really have any business being in higher education to begin with.
Bob proved that this was a very viable university and very essential and very credible. Bob is the real deal.
I'd worked with Bob in 3 different companies before I came to WGU, and I always appreciated his leadership.
Those of us who have experienced this growth and success of university understand the complex and challenging but confident role that Bob played.
You can tell that for him this is very personal. This isn't a job. This is a calling. This is a mission.
Bob's been a great partner, mentor, friend, and when you spend this much time together, there are things you pick up about the individual. And one interesting thing, one funny thing, I think at least, is when he's dealing with a really stressful or hard issue, he puts his hand up here and he rubs his hair. And we all know it, and we learn to know if the hair was high, you stayed away. If the hair was low, it was a good time to go in and talk to him.
I think Bob will be remembered as one of the critical visionaries, not only for Western Governor University's establishment, but for the role that it's making in changing higher education.
Bob, congratulations. It's been the best partnership that I've experienced in my work life. I love you, I appreciate you, and we are here because of you.
Bob, thank you for involving me in the dream. Thank you for allowing me the room to grow, room to be better than I ever thought I could be.
Bob, as a friend, I congratulate you on your leadership of WGU and everything you've done to make this institution a first-class, wonderful example of what American higher education can be.
Bob, thank you for your incredible commitment to our students, our graduates, to our employees, and to me personally. Thank you for your incredible vision and also your commitment to innovation and bringing about WGU. It is what it is today, thanks to you.
Bob, I want to thank you for the last 17, 18 great years of working with you. It has been a joy. It has been all my pleasure. It has been an experience that you have grown into not only a friend, but a deeply appreciated mentor. We would not be here without you. WGU would not exist without you.
Thank you for the friendship. More than what we've done here, you have been one of the remarkable friends that's populated my life. You've inspired me to do great things. You've shown me that the Utah I believe in can achieve greatness, and you are at the pinnacle of Utah's greatness.
We are so appreciative of the chance we have to be able to recognize you and thank you for not only what you've meant in our lives, but in the lives of literally tens of thousands of other students. Thank you very much.
Bob, congratulations on all of us, but especially you having reached this incredible milestone of 20 years at WGU.
Bob, thanks for your friendship, and thanks for all you've done to make WGU such a resounding success. We've had a great ride.
If I may, can I have our chairman, Jim Geringer, as well as Bob, join me up here at the lectern. Bob, today we express our deepest appreciation, love, and our awe at your accomplishment. It's an honor and a privilege to present you with this honorary degree, and our chairman, Governor Jim Geringer, will help me hood you, as well as present you with that degree.
What a great honor and privilege for me. I have had the greatest job in the world for the last 7 what has made it so special as we've sought to build a university that would meet your needs and enable you to achieve your dreams. I now have a degree from my favorite university. I was going to apologize to you graduates because I didn't have to work for this degree, but then I thought about it and decided I really had worked for this degree. In fact, there were some really significant tests along the way as well. But it has been a joy and a privilege to serve WGU, certainly the greatest job opportunity I have ever had in my life. It's a great thing to be able to choose a career and do something that you love, something that's meaningful in the world, something that makes a difference in the world and in the lives of individuals. And that's been my privilege over many years. Scott mentioned earlier that the door of history turns on small hinges, and as I was reflecting on this experience here, I think the door of our personal history also turns on small hinges. Many years ago, at the age of 22, I was 2 weeks away from attending UCLA Law School when two individuals, Vic Bunderson and Dusty Houston, invited me to start a nonprofit institute with them doing computer-based education and training. This, I hate to admit, was well before the launch of personal computers. I decided to forego law school. I thought for a couple of years and go do this. I could always go back to law school. We ended up spinning off a company and taking it public and running it for the next 15 years. Our auditor at that company was an individual named Charlie Johnson. And years later, Charlie was the chief of staff to Governor Mike Leavitt when they were looking for a new president for WGU. And Charlie recommended me, and for some reason, the governor accepted the recommendation. And here we are, 20 years later, with an amazing university. It would not have happened without the contribution of so many other people. People who didn't loan it, gave their time and their money and their loaned reputation to an idea and a vision. Certainly foremost among those people would be our founding governors, particularly these three who are seated to my left: Governor Mike Leavitt, Governor Roy Romer, and Governor Jim Geringer, who not only had the vision for this, but invested their time and energy in making it a reality. They also helped raise all the initial money for the university, and a lot was needed. I remember contributions from Scott McNeely, the chair of Sun Microsystems, who spent an hour listening to this idea, pulled out his personal checkbook, and wrote a check for $500,000. More importantly, he gave the names and phone numbers of other executives in Silicon Valley and elsewhere in the technology industry, many of whom ended up supporting the university. There were others. Tim McEwen at International Thompson Publishing managed to give us a $1.4 million grant in the early years. I think it was about 2 weeks before we would miss payroll. And in those days, it would support payroll for about a year. Certainly, I must mention Senator Bob Bennett from Utah, who led efforts in Congress to support WGU with federal appropriations, and Senator Mike Enzi of Wyoming, who passed legislation which for the first time enabled distance education to be eligible for federal financial aid. Amazingly enough, that was only 12 years ago that distance education was made eligible for financial aid, partly because of the efforts of WGU. I must mention Secretary Rod Page and his Deputy Secretary Bill Hanson. Governor Leavitt and I visited with Secretary Page when we had 100 students, no accreditation, a really good idea for a teacher's college, which Secretary Page gave us a $10 million grant to create the WGU Teachers College. You almost can't imagine that happening today. Later, Governor Mitch Daniels decided to create the first state-branded WGU University, naming WGU Indiana as the 8th state university, which has since been followed by state universities in Washington and Texas, and Tennessee and Missouri and Nevada. And Scott, I hope more to come. Despite all of those people, not in spite of those people, because of those people, but even more significant, would be the work of hundreds of colleagues at WGU who committed their career and their time and their expertise to serving students and to building a great university, who dedicated day after day as mentors and in many other university positions in dedicating their time and efforts to the success of students. And ultimately, all of our success is due to you, students and graduates who chose to attend WGU, and by your efforts have graduated. Many have moved on now to significant positions in teaching and nursing and business and information technology and created the reputation which WGU today enjoys. Along the way, I developed a very simple leadership principle. There's all these books on leadership, and certainly Clay Christensen is a master at it. But really it boils down to treat other people the way you'd like to be treated. And if we use that principle with our employees, with our colleagues, with our customers, in our case with students, and with each other, things will work out well. In the end, it's people that really matter. And what I will remember most about my experience at WGU are these commencements and the opportunity to congratulate so many of you as you complete a long-awaited dream of achieving a degree and moving on to career success. Finally, I would leave us only with this thought, that each of us has much to be grateful for, and it improves our quality of life as we're grateful for the opportunities we have, for the people along the way who have made a difference in our lives, who support us in our dreams and aspirations. Thank you all for all that you have done.
I'm pleased to introduce Clayton M. Christensen, our commencement speaker today. Professor Christensen is the Kim B. Clark Professor of Business Administration at Harvard Business School and the founder of the Christensen Institute. Often regarded as one of the world's top experts on innovation and growth, Christensen introduced the theory of disruptive innovation and has founded a number of successful companies and organizations that apply these theories. Clayton has long been a supporter of WGU and the university's learning model. Please welcome Clayton Christensen.
I'm honored to be with you today. As I have tried to prepare my remarks, I realize that you and I have a lot in common. I was raised in Rose Park on the right side of the tracks in Salt Lake City. I went to West High School and graduated from there. At age 38, with 4 kids, I lost my job. And I was at a point in my life where I just needed to support my family better than we had before. And so I went back to school, hoping that it would lead me to a new career as a teacher. You have had a lot of responsibility in caring for your family as you serve, as you study here. And I had a family that I needed to care for as well. But oh my gosh, I am so grateful that I went to school again to get a better job and to be able to support my family in a better way. And so we do have a lot in common. I'd like to talk with you a bit today about smallness and bigness in mankind. In my profession, my job is to identify questions and puzzles and paradoxes that have not yet been resolved. And my job has been to resolve them as best I can. And one of the questions that I posed at the beginning was, I wonder why success is so hard to sustain. So if you look across the sweep of business history, most companies which at one point were widely regarded as unassailably successful, a decade or two later you find them in the middle of the pack and often at the bottom of the heap. And so the puzzle was, what makes success so hard to sustain at the level of corporations as well as individuals? And I came to a strange conclusion, and that is, what causes successful companies or people to fail is they have a small view of mankind, not a big view. And they look at the entities that are big and successful and try to emulate them. In the end, however, it's really people that start with small problems that grow, that become successful. So, for example, a number of years ago, a company called Nucor built a plant. You see it on the left-hand side of the road as you go north near Tremonton. And they had a new technology for making steel. They could bring scrap, melt it, and reform it into shapes. And the only product that they could make in the beginning was rebar that is used to build our inside of cement when you're building structures. There was another company in Utah called US Steel. They had a huge plant in Geneva. And the people at US Steel looked down at Nucor and their new technology. And all they could do was make rebar, which is at the low end. And it made no sense to them. And so they ignored it. But Nucor instead began making small products and simple ideas, and then they made it better and better and better. And as they got ever more capable, the reaction of US Steel was still not to look at them down market, but rather to try to see if they could make even bigger steel for even bigger people. And ultimately, Nucor has been wildly successful by looking at the bottom of the market as a platform to grow. Some of you know a company called Toyota. When I was in high school and college, Toyota was invading North America, but they invaded North America not with Lexuses, but with a rusty little subcompact called a Corona. And what they did was they made a car so affordable and accessible that the low end of humanity, people we call college students, could own a car. And while Toyota was starting at the bottom of the market, General Motors and Ford had a different view of success. And that is, we have to make even bigger cars for even bigger people. And they looked at Toyota coming from below, and it made no sense to pay attention to them. And then Toyota went from a Corona to a Corolla to a Tercel, Corolla, Camry, Avalon, 4Runner, Sequoia, and then the Lexus. And yet General Motors and Ford, framing goodness as success, couldn't see it coming until it's all over. And this is what I mean by the smallness of mankind, the view that we will only be success if we are better than them. And a much better way to view mankind is I might be better than them at one point, but what's different is they want to improve to get better. And taking that view, they might be good, but we want to grow and we want to be better, makes a different view of mankind. And that brings a very different view of mankind, a bigness of mankind. And the premise is very different. We might look at a person who seems to be better than I am, they know more than we do. But that wasn't always so. When we were born, we were all the same. And other people might have learned earlier than we, but if they learn it, we can learn it too. And we need to view our success not as a static view, but rather a dynamic view. If I can't do something, it doesn't condemn me to being mediocre in the rest of my life. Rather, it just gives me an opportunity to learn. At age 38, I learned how to do research and to be a teacher. You guys, at the same age, have learned how to be accountants and nurses and engineers and business people, and I congratulate you. If you keep thinking about the view of mankind, that it's a dynamic view, that you can spend the rest of your life doing better and better, you will bless mankind in many ways. Another element of the bigness of mankind that I think is important is that learning is not a static event, but rather learning is something that we ought to do for the rest of our lives. And it isn't entailing just focusing on us to learn, and be skilled, but rather it requires that we teach each other and help each other as they try to learn. Because as we teach, we learn. And I think an important element of the business model here is that we help each other to be better. Another thing that's important for me as I look at the bigness of mankind is that this is God's view of mankind as well. God did not envision that some of us would be bolted to the floor of mankind, unable to succeed, while others have flexibility and upward mobility. That's not God's view of mankind at all. His view is in the bigness of mankind, that we can become what He is. And He's given that potential to every one of us. And that's why it's so important that we keep learning. He envisions that each of us can know what He knows. Now, as you can see with this color, I live in traditional higher education at a university called Harvard. And I'm grateful that I work there. It's a good school. But we have a smallness view of mankind. The minute you get the ACC or the GRE, it determines whether you can come and join us or you can't. We keep score. We figure out what is the average GMAT and GRE for the students who go to Stanford and Yale and all of these other lesser-known schools. And we have to keep score, because if we have bigger scores, we're better than them. And in order to succeed, we have to be better than others. But that's not what bigness is about in any way. We need to help everybody keep learning for the rest of their lives so that we all can become the people that God wants us to become. And of all of the universities that I know of who have succumbed to the view of the smallness of mankind, there is one big exception, and that is Western Governors. Everything I feel with you is based upon the bigness of mankind. Everything that I feel is that it's dynamic, it's not static. People can learn for the rest of their lives. Many of you, like I, can choose to take a different career in halfway through and bring happiness to our families. And so I give my honest congratulations and gratitude to so many of the people here who have sacrificed so much to create this marvelous university. Now, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to close by telling you how I learned about the bigness of mankind. One day, a number of years ago, I was driving to school, and about 6 a.m., all of a sudden, I had a feeling in my mind and in my heart that something important is going to happen to me, Clay Christensen. And there was no specificity about what that was. But it was a very clear feeling that I was going to be given a responsibility in the not too distant future. And so as I continued to drive to work, I wondered, what might that be? And then a couple of weeks later, there was an announcement that somebody in my field was going to leave their employment. And I put two and two together and realized they're going to give that to me. And so I started to prepare myself and figured out what else I would want to put into place and who would I ask to work with me. And then when the time came to announce who the person was, they chose another person and not me. And I wondered, why in the world would they have done that to me? Because I looked at my resume versus his, and there was no question that I was better. But, and it put me on I just couldn't figure out what had gone wrong with me. And then after about 2 months of trying to figure it out, I had an important insight, and that is that God doesn't hire any accountants in heaven. And what I mean by that is you and I, because we have finite minds, we have to aggregate in order to understanding what's going on. So in companies that I'm affiliated with, we send out invoices and we receive invoices many times every day. And we can't keep track of all of the individual data in each of these invoices. And so thank goodness we have accountants. And they can add up all of those numbers and give us a single number that allows us to say we're doing better or we're doing worse. Because we have limited minds, we need numbers, and we have to aggregate things in order to get a sense of what's going on. And we have a sense, because we aggregate, that the world is organized in a hierarchical way, so that people who they are responsible for bigger numbers are more important in an organization than people who are responsible for smaller numbers. But then I realized that God has an infinite mind. And because of his capability, God doesn't have to aggregate people and turn those into numbers in order to understand completely what's going on in this world. Because he has an infinite mind, he doesn't need to count us as numbers. Then I realized, oh my gosh, so if that means that God only looks at people and not numbers, when I die and I have my interview with him, he's not going to say to me, oh my goodness, the important Professor Clayton Christensen from the Harvard Business School. God's not going to say that. Instead, what he's going to say to me is, all right, Clay, do you remember I put you in this situation? Can we just talk about what you did to help those people that you were with to become better people? And then if you remember I put you in this situation, now let's talk about the people there that you helped to become better people. And then if you remember I gave you 5 wonderful children, let's talk about what you did to help them become better people. And I realized that God will measure my life by the individual people who I helped to become better people. That's the way he will measure my life. And when I realized that, I realized that I need every day to find opportunities to help people that I work with and study with to become better people. Because that is the way God will measure my life. And I want to congratulate you, first to the faculty, because you have such great opportunity to help the people that you work with to be better people. And you students who have worked to help the people that you work with to become better people. You have chosen magnificent professions, and I thank you. God bless you. I pray that God will be with you as you try to become bigger and bigger and better people. Thank you.
Thank you, Clayton. I think he captures the essence of WGU and all of you. Now we have the privilege of hearing from two graduates. They are Kristen Gibson, a Master of Business Administration, and Aaron Bishop, a Master of Education in Instructional and Design. Please join me in welcoming first Kristen to the lectern.
I'm definitely shorter than the doctor. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for having me today. So, I have a question. Who here has ever been lost? Raise your hand. Okay. Nearly everyone. Wives, if your husband refuses to raise his hand, raise both hands. Okay, yep, that's better. If you're anything like me, then you've already been lost 2 times today just getting to your seat. Hello, my name is Kristen Gibson, and I get lost all of the time. I can get lost just about anywhere, doing just about anything, using Google Maps, street signs, you name it. So it's no surprise to say at one point, or many, I felt a little lost in life. I've been working since I was 16 years old, and like any teenager, at first, it was a means to an end. I worked because I wanted to go to the movies, and if my mother said, with whose money, I wanted to say, mine. In my early 20s, I needed money for Taco Tuesdays and parking tickets. In my mid-20s, my cousin Susan told me about WGU. She was a graduate and told me to check it out. I half-heartedly wrote it down on a piece of paper, and true to my life, I lost it. I'd been working small jobs for years, but it just didn't feel right. It didn't fit the idea and the dream that I had for myself. At that point, I knew that I was lost. I didn't know what to do or where to go. That's around the time I tapped into my personal compass. Some people call it the true north. Others can call it their true center. I didn't know a lot of variables at the time. I only knew how I wanted to feel, valued, happy, useful. And I used my personal compass to orient myself. 2 years after my chat with Susan, I miraculously found the paper and took a step in the right direction. So many of us had to explain what WGU was to our families, friends, and peers. It's an online school. Yes, it's accredited. Yes, the degree is real. No, I can't cheat. My life hasn't been traditional by any means, working 3 jobs to put myself through undergrad, so why did my education have to be? It seemed pretty straightforward, until the first time I had to take a proctored exam. What do you mean they'll be watching me the whole time? Wait, I have to put on pants? But for each of us in this room, we made it work. Whether it was waking up at 5 a.m. to get some studying in, staying up late while everyone else was asleep, or printing out cohort schedules and guides from work, we made things happen. Whenever I did feel lost in a course, I again used my personal compass, who by now had a name and a face. My mentor, Jeremy Little. Life doesn't stop just because you're going to school, and you're bound to get lost along the way. But I knew my mentor, Jeremy, would get on the phone and say, hey, this is where you should be going. I found myself reassured as I progressed through the degree. So by day, I'm a travel coordinator. By night, I'm sure he'd say I was Carmen Sandiego. I'm always on the move, between scuba diving 100 feet underwater through a sunken airplane or being hopelessly lost in France. With my mentor, I was able to stay connected and keep up with my goals. When I started my job, it was only a temporary position. I had no idea what the expectations were or where it could go. Because of WGU, I was able to take what I learned in my degree program and turn a simple job into a stable career. Both the president and the CFO of my company quickly became impressed with my analytical skills and noticed that I was applying to my work what I was learning in school. I've since been promoted, given a supervisory role, a raise, and asked to create an entire department around my individual position. It's the competence and the confidence I now have that's made me become invaluable to my company. I'm not lost anymore, in this sense, because of WGU. The compass can look different for everyone. It can be in the face of your child, the smile of a spouse, the knowing look of a parent, or the support of a friend. Whatever your compass is, it all guided us to Western Governors University along our path to our true north and beyond. Congratulations, graduates, we did it.
WGU paved the way for me to live a life I never thought possible. WGU paved the way for my children to live a life far different from the life I experienced growing up. WGU paved the way in adequately preparing me for a career that I love. The home I grew up in was one that was plagued with addiction and poverty, trials and obstacles seemingly around every corner. My mom, a single mother of 4 young children, had little to offer out in the workforce other than that of her GED. Money was tight, and bills were paid according to their importance. Our schooling was essentially placed on the back burner. As a child, I had many extra responsibilities placed on me that centralized around keeping our household afloat, rather than being able to focus on my academics. As I grew older, I lost myself, and I developed an extremely low sense of self-esteem. At one point in high school, I moved out of my house to escape the environment I was in. Working part-time while trying to make ends meet and keeping my grades up was challenging, to say the least. Crunching numbers, I realized I could drop out, go to work full-time, and make more money to sustain my way of life. Not looking at the longevity of the situation, this is what I did. I dropped out. I dropped out until a lifesaver showed up, my teacher, Mr. Jones. He refused to give up on me. He refused to let me repeat the cycle. Mr. Jones saw my true potential and didn't want me to continue on without seeing it myself. He encouraged me to get re-registered. He took it upon himself to work out a plan with the school counselor. Knowing my situation, he also had the counselor discuss different options available to me to graduate a little early if I was willing to put forth the effort. Mr. Jones sent a clear message to me that day, and that was that I was worth it. I wish this is where I could say I got my life back on track, but it's me. My life is all about trial and error. The second half of my senior year, I found out that I was pregnant. What was I going to do? How was I going to do it? When I told Mr. Jones, I fully expected a lecture of disappointment about my life choices, but there was none of that. He helped me figure out the rest of my schooling, and he did it all without complaint. I was able to finish my senior year just a little ahead of my class and obtain a full-time job with benefits in order to pay for all my medical expenses. Following the birth of my son, I had a job, but I did not have a career. I was struggling, and I knew that my son deserved better, yet college seemed so far out of the realm of possibility. Growing up, I always admired people that had obtained college degrees because to me, that was something that seemed so rare. I had the perception that only certain types of people were able to successfully go to college, and they weren't like me. They were better. They grew up in the most stable of homes. They were smart and intelligent. These were the people that had the resources readily available, everything that I didn't. I checked into it and quickly realized how demanding a college schedule was, especially with a little child while working full-time. It seemed impossible. One day, I went back to Mr. Jones to visit him. I tearfully told him about the guilt I felt, knowing the trials that I faced were self-induced, yet they impacted the life of my child. I felt like a failure. As Mr. Jones sat there with me and my son, he reminded me of all the strength and resilience that I had. He reminded me of all that I had already overcome. He looked at me and said something that clicked. Erin, you can do hard things. After a failed marriage and attempts at other colleges, I heard about WGU. By this point, I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a teacher. If it weren't for Mr. Jones, I wouldn't have even graduated high school. I felt if I could at least be one child's someone, that could be my way of giving back. Sorry, I'm kind of getting choked up because Mr. Jones, this isn't part of my speech, he is still so humble and insists that he didn't do much. But 14 years later, he's sitting here with his family in the audience. I wasn't gonna cry, he's gonna hear about that later. Earning my bachelor's degree in 2013 from WGU was one of the hardest yet most rewarding things I had ever done. Little did I know what I'd go through for my master's. My grandparents helped me with my grandchildren, or my grandparents helped me with my children. My ex-stepfather and his wife opened their hearts and home to me and my children while I was student teaching. Days were long, nights were short, and breakdowns happened. I missed my children. I missed being a mom. But I can't put into words how great it felt when I was offered my first teaching job before I had even officially graduated. After being in the classroom for about a year, I had this insane idea that maybe, just maybe, I could go back and earn a master's degree. I mean, I earned my bachelor's, right? Master's gonna be that much harder. Yeah, I was wrong. It was harder, a lot harder. There were many late nights studying just to have the alarm clock go off 4 hours later. There were many times my mentor, Manita, spent more than my allotted time on the phone helping me and encouraging me. I can be kind of bratty, I can be kind of feisty, and every time I had I'm gonna call it a moment, she handled it like a champ. Sometimes she even gave me some tough love, letting me know that I might have actually been wrong. Maybe it wasn't the evaluator's fault after all. Many times she would say, Erin, you can do this. You can do hard things, just as Mr. Jones had so many years ago. Life has a funny way of throwing you curveballs. Often things don't go as planned. There probably isn't one graduate sitting in this audience that didn't experience a trial or a hardship during their schooling process. Life can also surprise you by bringing people into your life from the most unexpected places at the most unexpected times. Graduates, you are here because you branched out and allowed yourself to do hard things. Continue to shine and continue down the path of success. Feel proud. WGU, thank you for helping me through life's journey. Since graduating, I have been able to purchase my own home, different vehicles, take my children on multiple vacations where we get to create lasting memories together. And last but not least, I was offered a district position as a behavior specialist. I will forever be grateful and indebted to my cheerleaders along the way. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be me. Congratulations to you all.
This concludes the commencement portion of our ceremony. We'd like to thank our speakers and all of you for attending. We will now divide into two groups for convocation and the conferral of degrees. We ask master's degree graduates and their guests to remain in this room while we will excuse the bachelor's degree graduates and their guests to move across the hall to the grand ballroom, which is directly across the way. This is the order of the recession. First, we'll ask the stage party to lead the recession, followed by our bachelor's graduates, and then followed by their guests and family and faculty. The convocations will start shortly, so please proceed directly to the ballroom. Once the bachelor's degree graduates and their guests have left the hall, master's degree guests, we invite you to move closer to the stage. Will the bachelor's graduates please rise? Thank you. The stage party may also rise.